Well, Charlie, thanks for catching up with us. I know it's been a pretty eventful last few weeks for you with the 60 Minutes interview. So just wanted to kind of touch base, kind of see how things have been going on your end, kind of update you on how things are going on our end as well. So I guess we could kind of start off talking about the fact that you've been on national TV and on one of the biggest shows, historically speaking, that's ever existed. So how was that experience for you?
Yeah, that experience was really great. I was very impressed with just how much Anderson Cooper knew already about crypto and how much he was into it. And the whole experience of doing 60 Minutes, I was a little nervous, but it went really well. And I'm really happy to have showed a lot of people that watch the show why crypto is so important. And I've had dozens of people see me on the street and have been like, "You were great," and now they're interested in learning more about crypto, and they felt that I did a really good job. So I guess I'm humbled by that.
No, I mean it's a great thing for the industry. In general, being on such a mainstream show, just shows where crypto is in its stage of development. And the fact that they can dedicate an hour-long show to crypto is pretty damn amazing. So yeah. I'm sure you feel quite honored. As far as the media experience, I mean, from an interview to the actual production of the show, did you notice a difference in the way the questions were talked about or phrased or anything like that? Or was it like what you see is what you got?
I can't say that they didn't try to trap me into certain things, or have me say certain things that would have made for more sensational TV. But I've learned from being in the media a lot over like the past decade that as long as you're being completely upfront with something and you're just being honest and telling the truth, they can't really trap you in it, because what they try to do is make you say a different answer than what's really the truth, and then say, "Oh, but I thought whatever." So they were like, for example, ask me about prison and ask me about early crypto days and how I was playing fast and loose, and I was just like, "Yeah, this is how I was," and I wasn't really a great person. I didn't like who I was. I was a stupid kid, and they couldn't really trap me in it. So they turned it into a piece where it was more of like how I won them over. You know what I mean?
Like the redemption story.
Yeah, that's not what they wanted. Originally they wanted me they wanted it a little bit different.
But because you owned it, you didn't really give them that option. Yeah. Well,
it's a good lesson to everyone, just owning up to things and telling the truth. It really does work.
Yeah, well, there's something to be said about, honesty and transparency. I mean, something that it's a principle I've always tried to hold in my life as well. It's like the best thing you can do is to own your flaws, because then you can actually improve them. I mean, being a father, that really comes through. If you've got kids, you're like, if you don't teach them that life skill, then they're susceptible to get stuck in they can just get stuck in a rut. It's like that's how you level up in life, is by looking at your flaws and saying, I need to work to change that. So I thought it was great. I thought it was admirable the way you handled it. And I was just kind of curious because, in my interactions with media, I've seen, that angle that they try to take on things. And I was curious what it was like on that stage,
Yeah, of course.
So as far as how much content you guys recorded versus how much actually made it.
It was 6 hours of interviews for a 30 minute clip. Yeah. It was all day.
Man. Jeez, that's a lot of talking. A lot of talking. So you and Anderson Cooper got pretty close during that process, I would imagine.
And it was pretty funny because I would assume he's so busy, but we spent 6 hours. We had lunch and spent a lot of time walking around the city and just talking. It seems like he was really interested in learning about it, because I think he realized this is not going to be the last time he's going to have to talk about crypto. And so better for him to learn everything about it now for me, and then be able to talk about it later in the future.
That's very cool. Since the everything aired, have you had any communications with him since?
Yeah, he gave me his private email address, which is very funky because you'll never know it's his email address. And we were chatting back and forth a little bit about some stuff about his story and my story, and he communicates. I mean, as busy as this guy is, he answers an email within 1 day. I don't even answer an email within 1 day.
Yeah, that's God. I mean, he's got to get 1,000 emails a day. That's pretty
The
amazing.
email he gave me seems like it's a very private email address. You'll never know it's him, and so he probably doesn't get a lot of like spam, and keeps it to people that he actually wants to communicate with.
Oh, that's cool. That's very cool. So you've made it into the inner circle.
Anderson's inner circle, and I'm a big fan because I'm reading his book now, and he's an awesome guy.
That's cool, man. Very, very, very cool experience. Was there anything specific that you wanted to get airtime on that got cut from the interview?
Not really. They really did. It was a perfectly well-rounded piece. There was no issues at all.
It's great, man. It's great.
How are things with Latium going?
Well, everything's good, man. We're heads down in development right now, and we've been kind of quiet for the last, I'd say, a couple months. Most of that's because we're pushing a really, really large update. We're targeting late July to early August when this thing drops, but it's going to be a very feature-rich update. We're dropping in a couple of core features that haven't existed, and we're doing a lot of cleanup. But beyond that, we're going multi-currency support. So we'll be dropping around 10 new currencies into the system, and we'll be adding new currencies every week to 2 weeks. So we're really going to make it a full crypto platform. Instead of just being Latium, it's going to be a multi-currency portal. Right now, we support Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and Tether. But when this drops, we'll be growing that out to the number of around 50 to 100 currencies in a year. Yeah.
Wow.
So been a lot of work, but and I know we have been kind of out of the light for a minute, but I think when this drops, I think people understand why.
Well, you know what? It's important for projects to not always have to be talking all the time, just to be hunkering down and getting stuff done. Just because you don't hear from a project doesn't mean they're not actually getting things done. And that's, I think crypto users have learned that going through the past year and a half of a bear market, have learned that projects can't always be just talking to their users all the time. They have to be actually getting work done, and that's really important.
Yeah, well, I think that the PR cycles for crypto were kind of in outer space for a little while, during the ICO run, and I think that they're starting to balance out. Like, people are realizing, like, if you track a major company, I mean, they have PR coming out, but it comes out when major things happen. There's no point in just pushing constant PR. It just becomes it's this numbing effect that doesn't really get. So, what we're trying to do is make something that's actually press worthy, and we think that's what we're doing. And the platform itself, I think we're going to increase usability substantially. We're going to be able to gravitate towards new user bases and other token projects. So there's going to be a lot of integration and partnerships coming up over the next 12 to 18 months. And I'm excited about it. I think everybody on board is excited as well.
Well, congratulations. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
So what's going on with this Craig Wright situation? I don't want to give it more airtime than it needs to be, but I mean, I don't think it's such a big deal that anyone could go right now and register. I can go right now and say I wrote the Bitcoin white paper. It doesn't matter.
Yes. See, this is one of the problems, I think, with the way that media works versus reality. Like, if you don't understand the law, copyrights, how these things process, it's a really nice headline for the media to take and run with it, which is what they've done. But the reality of that is, like, anybody can go out and do that. It's just like a lawsuit or anything else. There doesn't have to be anything behind those events. You just go out and do it. And so this action, it means that some point in the distant future, we'll get a determination on if they issue a copyright. But beyond that, getting a software copyright is near impossible. Mm-hmm. Period. I mean, they just don't issue them. If you look at the issuance of technical copyrights for software, they very seldomly issue them. I don't think that they issued any. I think that one of the reasons is because they can't really define what about it is copyrightable. Like, hardware is easy, but it's like when you have code, okay? It's like if I write a general if statement, well, I could say everyone who's ever written code has now breached my copyright. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's a problem in that with the way that code works. You're copywriting logic, So the idea of taking that off the board for anybody else to use, like the concept of logic, like if this happens, do this. That's a problem. And I think that the Copyright Office has been struggling with that over the last decade. They really haven't resolved it, which is one of the reasons that you don't see a lot of software copyrights being issued. You can trademark software. You can say, this is my software and it does this, but the idea of the actual code itself, the underlying code being copyrighted, is just something the Copyright Office has stayed away from. So I think he's got an uphill battle, even if he was Satoshi, which, I don't believe a lot of people believe that that's the case. So, it'll be an interesting thing to watch, but people who think that this is going to have any direct impact, I think are misguided. You're talking years.
That's really good news. And so, how do you think this is going to affect the markets going through the next few months?
Honestly, I think the impact that it's going to have on the markets is probably already dropped. The only additional impact I think will happen when, if there's PR around the copyright being rejected and or approved, which I think most likely, even again, if he was Satoshi, it probably would be rejected. So I don't think that you're going to see any real market impact over the next year to 2 years over that. News is short-lived unless there's something to back it up.
Yeah,
you can see that in the markets. I mean, news is anticipated.
That, like all these news would affect. I'd wake up in the morning and it'd be like China's banning Bitcoin. The price would. Now it doesn't really affect it much. Good and bad, which is good.
I think it's good because it means that the market's becoming more liquid and more stable, less prone to flighty information changing the market. I used to trade fundamental news in the currency markets before I got into crypto. So even in really established markets, news is going to impact the market, but in FX it would impact the market for like a couple minutes, maybe a half hour, and that's over.
So you traded a lot of Forex?
I did. I mean, my background, I started in FX in 2005, and I actually still have a pretty successful currency company right now. We're one of the biggest introducing brokers in the world.
Really?
Yeah. So that's my background was trading. I was very passionate about it. It's a very stressful way to live, though.
Do you compare trading crypto more like trading Forex or trading stocks?
I would say that it functions. It really doesn't function like either to me.
Okay.
If I had to align it with one or the other, I would say currency, because currency is more volatile as far as the movements that you're going to get in a day. Crypto is not isolated like a stock is directly related to what's going on in a company.
Yeah.
Crypto really isn't. It's not even related to the project that much. Like some of it is. Like if a major news announcement comes out from a company, it's going to impact the crypto price. But most of it's driven by the whole market, which is interesting. There's no asset class I know of that functions like that. So
the thing is, with Bitcoin, there's a real utility for owning it. You want to own it, to use it and to store it. With Latium, there's a real utility. With some other ones, Ethereum is a real utility.
Yep, sure.
But some of the other ones, there's not real utility. It's more speculation at this point. And I don't really know why. It's all speculation. And so
I would agree. And I think that's unfortunate. And I think that it really speaks to how early we are in this ecosystem that's growing, right? People think that, we've been around for 10 years, that all of a sudden that means that we're a developed industry.
No, if you look at 20, 30 years down the road.
I agree. Me and you are on the same page with that. It's like you can look at the internet. I mean, people don't understand the internet started development in the 70s and was publicly available in the mid 80s. And it didn't. I mean, when did people get a home computer? Maybe the late 90s.
Yeah.
And it really didn't pick up until smartphones came out. That's when the internet really blew up for individual users. So you're talking about a 30-year cycle. And I don't think that crypto is really any different. And I think that where we are right now is like I was in the late 80s when I was programming command lines to connect to an individual server on the internet. And I think that's where we are with crypto. We've got the PR behind it, which is cool, but that's just because the world's connected.
Yeah, good point.
It wasn't connected back then. So I think that a lot of the things that are happening in crypto, with everything being like one market, like the market is bullish or the market is bearish. There is no other market in the world that you can say that in. Like stocks, even in a bear market, you've got stocks that are performing well. Why? Because the company's doing well. That does not happen in crypto. It's like everything moves one way or everything moves the other.
That's why when you have like specific stocks, you can like balance it out and try to always make 6% per year, even in like 2008 situations.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And you're hedging risk, and you're taking companies that are more risk averse than others.
Someone needs to invent a crypto that the value goes up when the markets are going down.
I totally agree.
How would that work though? That would be really cool.
Well, what you really need to do is you need to have like the ability to have sell contracts or indexes, to be able to balance out some of the volatility. I think that that people are working on that, but honestly, those things are years away because again, we're very early on in this process. You need options.
It's like a constant Bitcoin short. So the value of it goes up. So instead of shorting Bitcoin, you're basically buying this coin and the value of it will go up relative to the whole cryptocurrency index going down.
Yeah, I mean, that's how the other markets work.
That would be really cool.
Well, I mean, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when it happens, but the markets, first thing we have to do is we have to get these markets fully accepted and regulated, which is happening, right? So as the government, which is slow to move, and the U.S. government's one of the slowest to move, period. I mean, it's the same thing with FX. I think FX was around 5 years we had drafted legislation for 5 years before they actually passed regulations. Yeah. So it was known that they were going to regulate it for 5 years before it actually passed. So we're a ways out from that, but the ETFs, the things that they're trying to create, the fact that we have a futures trading is a step, but we need options. We need the ability to offset risk. Liquidity is a real issue. Like, and nobody talks about it, but on an institutional level, you have, institutional players that the markets aren't deep enough, and there's no aggregation between these isolated pools of liquidity. So Binance is its own liquidity pool, right? Yeah. You got Bittrex over here. You've got all these different exchanges, and they're all separate liquidity pools. Yeah. So you need some sort of prime broker relationship there where you're deepening the liquidity. They're offsetting between each other. All those technologies are going to take years to
preventing like manipulation and things like that. That would be
exactly
super needed.
And those things are coming. It's just going to take time.
Cool, Dave. Well, thanks for chatting with me today, and I hope we can do this again soon.
Yeah, for sure, Charlie. Thanks for having me, man.